History isn't just words on a page, it's a living, breathing adventure. With each turn, we step closer to the moments that shaped our world. From ancient whispers to revolutionary roars, we witness the triumphs and struggles that define humanity. This is more than a journey through time. It's a chance to walk in the footsteps of giants. Are you ready to turn the page? Passport Chronicles.
The year is 1928. We're in Ciénaga, Colombia, a place with more banana trees than people. Their leaves seem to whisper secrets in the Caribbean breeze. But under this peaceful scene, trouble is brewing. The workers, sweating under the hot sun, can't take it anymore. They're worn out, their lives controlled by the United Fruit Company, a big, powerful company. The company controls everything they do. The workers ask for fairness, but no one listens. Then, something terrible happens. On a December night, gunshots ring out. The ground, once full of life, is now covered in the blood of innocent workers. This is the Banana Massacre, a sad part of Colombian history. People often forget about it, but the people who lived through it will never forget. It was a terrible show of greed and violence, and for years, no one talked about it. The victims couldn't tell their stories because they were killed, but the memory of the massacre stayed alive, passed down through families, whispered in secret. It reminds us of the terrible things that can happen when people are treated unfairly. The Banana Massacre shows us what happens when powerful people are not held responsible. It shows us the fight for fairness continues. The United Fruit Company was a giant in the banana business in the early 1900s in Colombia. Its huge farms showed its power. They took up lots of land in Colombia, a constant sign of the company's control. Workers came hoping for a better life, but they were trapped in a system that took advantage of them. They worked hard under the eyes of bosses who watched every move. They weren't treated like people. The pay was low, barely enough to live on. They were paid with special money they could only spend at the company store. This made it even harder for them to leave. They lived in crowded, dirty houses that made them sick. Getting a doctor was too expensive. Their bodies were worn down from the hard work. The company treated the workers like they didn't matter. Making money was all that mattered. The United Fruit Company was rich and had friends in the government. It did whatever it wanted. The Colombian government was weak and listened to powerful people from other countries. It ignored the suffering of its own people and allowed the massacre to happen. The workers, desperate for change, decided to speak up. They wanted better pay, safe places to work, and to be treated like human beings. They didn't ask for much, just a life where they could be treated with respect. They wanted their children to have a better future. But the company didn't listen. The United Fruit Company was used to getting its way and refused to talk to the workers. The company was too greedy to care about the workers' problems. The workers refused to be quiet. They organized and worked together, their voices getting louder. They held meetings, handed out flyers, and spread the news. Others who were also suffering quietly started to listen. The strike, a brave act, spread quickly, stopping the company's work. The Night of Bullets Massacre in Ciénaga. Things were very tense on December 6, 1928. Workers and their families, still hopeful, gathered in the town square of Ciénaga for safety. They believed in peaceful protest. They hoped for a fair solution. The Colombian army, working for the United Fruit Company, surrounded the square. It looked like something bad was going to happen. As night fell, terrible things happened. The soldiers started shooting at the unarmed crowd. Men, women, and children were killed. The square, once a place of hope, became a place of horror. No one knows exactly how many people died. The government said it wasn't many, but that wasn't true. Historians think hundreds, maybe thousands, died that night. Their bodies were thrown into mass graves or the sea. Their stories were almost lost forever. The massacre shocked Colombia and the world. It showed how greedy companies could be and what happens when they have too much power. Whispers and cover-ups. The United States and the silence. The United States had business dealings in the area and was close to the United Fruit Company. It did some questionable things after the massacre. The U.S. government wanted to protect its business interests, so it pressured Colombia to make the incident seem smaller than it was and protect the company. American newspapers listened to the company and wrote stories that blamed the workers and said the massacre was needed to stop trouble. But the truth came out. Reporters and activists heard about the massacre and wanted to know what really happened. Their investigations were difficult and dangerous, but they slowly uncovered the truth, showing how terrible the massacre was and who was responsible. The massacre became a symbol for groups fighting for fairness around the world. It showed how big companies can take advantage of people and why we need to watch them carefully. Living Memory, Gabriel Garcia Marquez and the Legacy of the Massacre. The Banana Massacre wasn't in history books for a long time, but it was remembered in stories. Gabriel Garcia Marquez, a famous Colombian writer, wrote about the massacre in his book, 100 Years of Solitude. He included the story in his fictional town of Macondo, which represents Colombia. Marquez's writing made the terrible night real for readers. He made sure people wouldn't forget the victims. The massacre in the book, while a story, was based on the real event. It became a powerful reminder of violence, corruption, and the fight for fairness in Latin America. Marquez's book has been read by millions of people around the world. It helped people learn about the massacre and understand its importance. The Banana Massacre shows us the power of stories. Stories can challenge what the government says, help us remember, and show us that even when bad things happen, hope and the fight for justice can continue. The aftermath of the Ciénaga massacre left deep scars on the local community. Families mourned their lost loved ones, and the air was thick with grief and fear. The United Fruit Company, with the backing of the Colombian government and the silent approval of the United States, continued its operations as if nothing had happened. Yet, amidst the sorrow, a sense of resilience began to grow. The massacre had ignited a flame of resistance within the hearts of the workers and their families. They knew that their fight for fair treatment and justice could not end with the tragic events of that night. The community began to organize more effectively, forming unions and alliances that would continue to push for labor rights and better working conditions. The memory of the massacre served as a powerful reminder of what was at stake and fueled their determination to create a better future. Over the years, the story of the Banana Massacre became a symbol of the broader struggle against oppression and exploitation in Latin America. It inspired countless activists and movements dedicated to social justice, not just in Colombia, but across the continent. The resilience of the Ciénaga community reminds us that even in the face of unimaginable tragedy, the human spirit can endure and rise again. Their fight for justice and dignity continues to resonate, echoing through the generations as a testament to their courage and strength. The Banana Massacre and its aftermath are a stark reminder of the cost of injustice, but also a beacon of hope that change is possible when people come together and stand up for what is right. The international response to the Ciénaga massacre was mixed, to say the least. Despite the gravity of the event, mainstream media outlets outside of Colombia were largely silent. This was no accident. The United Fruit Company wielded significant influence over both local and international media. Their extensive advertising budget and political connections ensured that the narrative of the massacre was either downplayed or ignored altogether. However, alternative press and independent journalists did not remain silent. Reports began to emerge, shedding light on the brutal crackdown and the plight of the workers. These stories circulated among activist circles and labor unions worldwide, sparking outrage and solidarity. The massacre became a rallying point for international labor movements and human rights organizations. Protests were organized in several countries, calling for justice for the victims and demanding accountability from both the Colombian government and the United Fruit Company. Gap 3S. Despite these efforts, the mainstream narrative remained largely controlled. The United Fruit Company's influence extended to political corridors, where it lobbied to suppress any investigations or sanctions. The United States, with its vested interests in the region, remained conspicuously silent, further complicating the quest for justice. Yet the story of the Ciénaga massacre could not be entirely buried. Over time, as more independent voices emerged and historical accounts were written, the truth began to surface. The massacre is now recognized as a significant event in the history of labor rights and anti-imperialist struggles in Latin America. The international response and media coverage, or lack thereof, serve as a stark reminder of the power dynamics at play. They highlight the importance of independent journalism and the need for vigilance in the face of corporate and political interests. The global echoes of the Banana Massacre underscore the universal struggle for human rights and justice, reminding us that the fight continues and that every voice, no matter how small, can contribute to the chorus demanding change. The Ciénaga massacre left a permanent scar on Colombia's workers and its politics. Right after, fear and harsh rules silenced many workers, but the seeds of fighting back had already been planted. The cruelty of the massacre made the workers' movement stronger, turning it into a more organized and determined group. Over the next few decades, labor unions in Colombia became bigger and worked together better. The massacre became a symbol of their fight, a sad reminder of what people gave up to get fair treatment and basic rights. This time saw important changes in labor laws, with new rules to protect workers' rights. Colombian politics changed forever too. The massacre showed everyone the deep corruption and secret deals between the government and big foreign companies. It started a wave of protests and awareness, leading to new political groups that fought for the rights of workers and the poor. What happened at the massacre influenced many generations of Colombian leaders and activists. It was a strong reminder of how important it is to stand up to bullies and unfairness. The story of the workers in Ciénaga became a key part of fighting for workers' rights, not just in Colombia, but all over Latin America and even further. Even with the progress made, the fight isn't over. What we learned from the Ciénaga massacre is still important today, as workers and activists everywhere keep fighting for their rights. What happened on that terrible day reminds us of the power of working together and the never-ending search for justice. The long-term effects of the Ciénaga massacre show how strong the human spirit is and how much we all want dignity and fairness. It shows the lasting impact of people working together and how important it is to remember our history as we try to make a better future. The Ciénaga massacre. It's more than just something in a history book. It's a powerful reminder of how far people will go to fight for what's right and fair. The terrible things that happened that day in 1928 still affect us today. It teaches us important lessons about people's courage and what happens when powerful people aren't held responsible.